by the way. What is that? I'm blocked by this person as well. 55-year-old claimed he confused a 4-year-old child with a mannequin. That's a crazy ass thing to do. Bro, that's wild. He just knocked out a fucking 4-year-old like that. After 5 years of watching you, I have that feeling that all political commentators see the whole thing just to shit on the other side and make profit of it. So I want to know, why not stop covering political things, since you won't make a difference? Neither the other political figures make a difference besides making good wealth for themselves. That's just the annoying thing, that both sides make a living for themselves. Says Alf Vomelmak. I've talked about this a bunch, but I'll answer your question. If my goal was to simply make money for myself, I would just be a right winger. That's it. Like, I believe in the things that I talk about, and I do think that, like, marginally I do make a difference. Like, I get people. That was a bad answer and pathetic. Wait, what? Jesus, why are you so angry? Guy who's been apparently following me for 5 years, but account created in 2024 1/22 and following since 1/22 2024. Jesus. Okay, well, as I was saying, as I was describing to you, you seem kind of angry, but maybe you aren't. My goal from the jump, look, bro, being a wannabe Che Guevara, you have to put more than words into the thing. Yeah, it seems like you have a very antagonistic relationship with this kind of content, and I would urge you to stop watching, because I feel like it really, really frustrates you, because I am not a wannabe Che Guevara at all. I'm a Twitch streamer. I've never presented myself or said that I'm Che Guevara. Also, the second thing that you're asking for is pretty funny. Like, what do you want me to do? Go arm revolutionary, anti-imperialist, like anti-colonial groups or something? Is that what you want me to do? Go fight with them? Because you're shadow boxing with an image that you think I have put forward. You trying to be the progressive voice while being passive? I don't. Most say Maoist third worldist. I don't think this guy's a Maoist third worldist. I don't think any real Maoist third worldist would turn around and be like, "You're being a wannabe Che Guevara." They would say something along the lines of like, "You are an America-KKK pig who benefits from living in the first world and the unequal exchange that is a fundamental part. If you were a real one, you would leave America-KKK and join the Philippine Maoists or something." But yeah. So what's the point of being a voice when the only thing you do is jerk off yourself for being the thing? Well, I think that it's difficult for us to come to an understanding, because I'm trying to describe to you that I'm not the thing that you think I am. I have not presented myself as this thing that you think I am. It's an image that you've made up in your mind. This happens quite a bit. There are a lot of people that like prop me up as this sort of thing, and will desperately try to make it seem like I present myself as this sort of thing, and that's not the case. So you have personally decided that this is the situation at hand. I'm a Twitch streamer. I cover the news, and my goal is to try to get people to see a different a different perspective. Okay. I think that is quite successful. The impact overall, obviously, is going to be marginal in comparison to, like, a real news operation like CNN or MSNBC. But a lot of people have joined local organizations. People have become community organizers. People have unionized their own workplaces as a consequence of, like, the things that they've learned from this stream. They've joined or even opened up their own YDSA chapters, or joined their GSA chapters in general. Not only is that the case, you just keep a bubble following all your words. That's a cult who doesn't do nothing. Well, again, you are very antagonistic, but I'm describing to you some of the things that this community has done. We've raised millions of dollars in funds, some of which I've also personally, obviously, given to, including being the single largest donor to the Amazon Labor Union, the only labor union that has ever successfully unionized an Amazon labor facility. So you might personally, wherever you are, think that this is, like, not really changing anything, not really changing the world, which I personally don't either. I think that I'm just a guy. I'm just a Twitch streamer. But if you were to ask me if there's any kind of positive impact to what I do, I would tell you, yes, I think that there is a marginal positive impact to what I do. Even if I didn't do any of those things, though, I think it's still perfectly valid to try to explain certain concepts such as racism, imperialism, capitalism, and you like the Messiah for left-wing Twitch? It's weird, bro. I'm not. I keep describing to you that that's not the case. I keep telling you that that's not the case, but you just don't want to hear the words that are coming out of my mouth. I've never presented myself as such. I do not believe that I am that person. You're saying that I'm presenting myself as this person and believe that I'm this person when I'm not. And now you're simply attacking this concept that you made up. It's kind of hard. It's going to be difficult, but I do believe that you will eventually get it, right? Like, we're at an impasse here. It's very difficult for you to, I think, comprehend the words that are coming out of my mouth, because you've already created a concept in your mind about who I am and who I represent myself as, and it's impossible to shake you off of this. A similar thing happened like a month or so ago, where, like, I tried to talk to a drama farming YouTuber with the hopes that I could, like, describe my own perspective to them, but it was like talking to a brick wall, which this is similar to that. Whoa. Kaya just dropped the skateboard. But you don't do nothing. They just worship you like Kanye. Okay. You're this is your perception of who I present myself as. Anyway, hopefully, you will get a little bit better. We're going to move on from your derailment here, but if you care, for anyone out there, I am not a Che Guevara style revolutionary figure. As a matter of fact, I make jokes about LARPers routinely that do such things. You might not have seen that before. Or maybe you personally do think that I'm a Che Guevara style revolutionary figure. I'm not. I'm a Twitch streamer. I'm a Twitch streamer with a very open perspective. I will always tell you what my honest opinion is. It is going to be probably a little different than the average news commentator in the United States of America, especially. Plenty of issues where I deviate from the norm and have the exact opposite framework, oftentimes about American imperialism. Please stop talking about yourself. Please move on. This is boring. Please stop talking about yourself. Okay. All right. Well, you're right, but I am not like a messiah figure at all. I've never said I am. I think Willie Mack called you like a sentient Che Guevara shirt or some dumb shit like that. Probably a hater from that community. Yeah. I don't know if you know this, but yeah, I spent the last hour talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender. That should have probably clued you in on what I do here. Haas, please, you defend yourself so much is the hardest thing about watching you. I mean, fair. Reminds me of that insurrectionary anarchist podcast guy in 2016 was constantly posting that why doesn't Chapa use their Patreon money to finance left-wing militia cells against the government? Yeah, always. I tried pulling the Hasan ripcord, but for good.
What is that? What does that sign say?
Good job.
No. Hasan is stinky?
Good job.
Hasan's why would you make the chinchilla lie?
What a fucking liar, dude.
Hasan is stinky?
What a fucking Weasley little liar, dude.
Why would you make the chinchilla lie?
No, it's good to see engagement with people with different perspectives. I think it is good, but up to a certain point, because like after the 11th time where someone comes up to me and is like, no, you are this thing, and I describe to them that like I have never presented myself as such a thing, it's good to show the rest of the audience like how unhinged and unwilling and unbending some people are. But it is what it is. It's just it's a sad state of affairs. Like, for example, the fact that people are still running with how much I've like sucked off a Houthi terrorist pirate. Like, how much I've sucked off a Houthi terrorist pirate. I should have never talked to them. I should have like owned them in the marketplace of ideas and whatnot. The dude is neither a Houthi nor a terrorist nor a pirate. And part of that we found out from the interview, right? And people just didn't watch the interview and instead made up their minds of the interview and just kind of ran along with it. And it just goes off with, I mean, people just basically make that assertion and they run along with it and oftentimes don't even recognize how fucking inherently racist that assertion is, right? But it is what it is. Wait, thought he was? How did he take the picture of the ship? The ship itself has been posted on the beach and is basically like a tourism attraction. Yeah, and by the way, since I interviewed him, so has the BBC, and they have like humanized them in those interviews as well. Obviously, my way of humanizing someone is going to be unconventional, considering that I myself am a, Twitch streamer and not the BBC. I don't have the same like stylistic choices or the style guide or the boundaries that they have. But yeah, to be fair, he did post videos of him holding an AK. Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but Yemen is the most gadded up country on the fucking planet. Like, it's the one place that has more guns per capita than America, I'm pretty sure. For obvious reasons. Also, yeah, dude, I can't believe the guy in Yemen was holding a fucking gun. That's so crazy. You know? Can you imagine having a gun and holding it in photos? You know? That's wild. Well, I probably shouldn't do this because there's a lot of people who have been reminding me how not white I am, apparently, recently. So estimated number of civilian guns per capita. Oh shit, never mind. The United States is actually still more than Yemen, but Yemen is number 3 after Falkland Islands. That's so funny. It's like it's the second most. Falkland Islands doesn't count, but it's the second most gadded up country on the planet. Okay. Alt tab dad. Thank you for the 10 gifted subs. The life of Hasanabi. It's kind of sad watching you try so hard and getting nowhere. Brother, I'm a leftist. I always try hard and get nowhere. It doesn't matter. It's not going to stop me from trying to do what I think is the right thing. It's kind of sad watching you try so hard and getting nowhere. That's what we do, baby. That's what leftism is all about. Okay. Iran responds to U.S. retaliation threats after soldiers killed in Jordan, which, by the way, the Brandon regime is now apparently pushing for now.
Iran's president is responding for the first time to America's threats of retaliation after the deaths of 3 U.S. service members in Jordan. Those soldiers will be honored in a dignified transfer ceremony today, and President Biden plans to be there. Ed O'Keefe is at the White House this morning tracking all of it for us. Ed, good morning to you.
Good morning, Tony. Iran's president says it'll respond to anyone that bullies his country. And that solemn ceremony honoring those fallen American soldiers will be held this afternoon as the families are allowing it to be seen by the public. Speaking Thursday at the National Prayer Breakfast, President Biden paid tribute to the 3 soldiers killed in the Jordan attack. Sergeants William Rivers, Kennedy Sanders, and Breonna Moffett.
They risked it all, and we'll never forget the sacrifices and service to our country, that the dozens of service members who were wounded and are recovering now.
As for the U.S. response to the attack,
it's time to take away even more capability than we've taken in the past.
U.S. officials tell CBS News that targets in Iraq and Syria have been approved, including against Iranian personnel and facilities in those countries. And Iran's president, Ibrahim Raisi, responded today, saying Iran won't start a war, but will respond strongly to anyone who bullies it. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says this time will be different from the retaliatory strikes launched in response to other recent attacks.
They have a lot of capability. I have a lot more.
Walking with a limp into the Pentagon briefing room, it was Austin's first meeting with reporters since his hospitalization in December. He also said he apologized directly to President Biden.
So Trump is always going to shit on Biden for this. Do you think he goes the angle of being against retaliation or going for the angle of Joe's doing this all wrong? I would be doing this better and stronger. No, Joe's doing this all wrong. I'd be doing it better and stronger. Because remember, he did that with Afghanistan. Afghanistan was a continuation of the Trump negotiations with the Taliban, right? Joe Biden followed that to a T. Maybe even it partially was a mistake to follow it that closely, in my opinion, right? So then Trump turned around and said, Joe Brandon fucked it up. I would have done it better. And it was a perfect position for him. At the time, I described it. It was like, it's so perfect for Donald Trump to just kick back and watch his own administration's policy failures play out by a dude who at least had the social and political capital to follow through on the Afghanistan withdrawal, which was always going to be terrible regardless, right? So he just sat back, shit on Joe Biden for it, and said he would do it better. Right now, it seems to me like Donald Trump's Middle Eastern policy is simply to go, look around. Look how bad the situation is. Look at how Biden has ruined everything. I would do it better. He said this in Ukraine as well. He didn't actually say how he would solve the problem in Ukraine, but he simply said Russia would never invade Ukraine if I was in charge. Now, does that mean anything? Does that actually, is that real? Is that a real thing? Does Trump have this capability? Well, he doesn't really have to have any of those things. He could just simply lie and his fans will eat it up. Okay? So that's it. He's going to pull out that you just lost the left line with Biden on Palestine again. Like, I know for a fact, and I've said this already, that Trump is, and I deviate from like a lot of even Palestinian thinkers that I respect and admire, like Rashid Khalidi, on this issue. I think that Trump is worse for Palestine and Palestinians than Joe Biden is, even though Joe Biden is at like peak, maximum genocide, maximum as bad as possible. He's like pretty much the worst possible person you could be, with one exception. And that exception is Donald Trump. Now, having said that, I guess one could make the argument that Donald Trump has more of an interest in being a pleaser of his own, or of like the American population in general, and he reads the room a little bit better. Perhaps he could read the room in that situation, see the writing on the wall, and like show force, demonstrate force, and then after that, like scale back on Israel's actions, like actually scale back on Israel's actions, because he recognizes how unpopular Netanyahu is, something he has made an assertion to before. But overall, that's hypothetical. What we can only work off of is what Trump has done, right? And what Trump has done is basically the major escalation, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, which solidified the annexation of Jerusalem and made it permanent, even though the entire global community considers that to be illegal, right? What he did is officially recognize Golan Heights as Israeli territory, another annexed territory that is not officially recognized by the global, by the international community as like Israeli territory, but Trump made that permanent. The Abraham Accords, writing out the Palestinians completely and just making these otherwise private relationships that many of the Gulf states had with Israel public, in a show of force, in a demonstration that like it's over. There's no more future for the Palestinians. They're done. They are completely written out. These were all massive missteps. Okay, these were all genuinely escalatory. I would say that even Hillary Clinton, regardless of what she said in the past, would have continued on this. Okay, I don't think Hillary Clinton would have done the things that Donald Trump did for Benjamin Netanyahu, because for as bloodthirsty and as violent as she is, there are still like marginal differences in foreign policy within the likes of someone like Hillary Clinton that at least understands like how devastating this would be for America's soft power, right? Stop being a Biden apologist is cringe. This is not a Biden apology at all. The reason why I'm spending a whole bunch of time talking about Donald Trump's failures is because those failures were continued upon with the branding campaign. This is the major flaw. Joe Biden himself personally is ideologically a Zionist, right? And a very, very big, zealous Zionist too. Like he is engaging in zealotry that is this is the most zealotry that you can get from like an elected official, right? That is terrifying. Why is that terrifying? Because I think that personally, that zealotry is causing him to only hear out people in the State Department that are leaning into being heavily pro-Israel, and not the other more sane voices who are still very bloodthirsty, right? Every day you say foreign policy is bipartisan. It is. However, there are still slight deviations in American foreign policy. Okay? This is still very important for you to understand. Foreign policy for the United States of America is bipartisan, but Israel's support to this degree, okay, instead of doing what Biden has done in the past, like calling up Israel and being like, you got to stop, you got to cut it out, it's over, like he did in 2021, or Ronald Reagan doing the same thing, or even like any kind of threat that Papa Bush, George H.W. Bush did back in the day. Like, there have been moments where Republican administrations have actually reined in Israel's violent, bloodthirsty conquest because they want to maintain stability in the region, even if overall they recognize like they're unconditionally pro-Israel, and they recognize that like Israel can, do genocide and will let it happen. However, there is a secondary impact on the way Biden approaches the subject. It is immoral because it's genocidal, as I've said time and time again, but it is also not pragmatic because it makes America look weak. Okay? If you care about that sort of thing, and I know for a fact that a lot of people in the State Department do care about that sort of thing. That's kind of their job. Do you understand? Their job is to project strength. This is how you continue to dominate the world. If you're the hegemonic superpower and your attack dog in the Middle East is like running wild, and you're basically giving them more of the guns and more of the weapons and more of the munitions to do that running wild shit, while simultaneously saying, oh no, maybe don't do this. This is not good. Come on, rein it in now, rein it in now. There is an obvious mismatch of values there that a lot of people recognize. Okay? What makes you think Israel's running wild? Ethnic cleansing is what makes me think Israel is running wild. Israel has never been this violent. In the entire history of Israel, we have moved far beyond 1948 even. We've doubled the amount of deaths from the Nakba. Do you understand? And the violence that Israel is engaging in is so, I mean, it's so gross, but it's so public. I think war has changed quite a bit. Okay? War has changed quite a bit. In many ways, it hasn't changed at all, and in some ways, it's changed in a way that is, I think, making our collective consciousness worse. Do I believe that the United States of America and the active duty combat soldiers that went into Afghanistan and went into Iraq did similar things that the Israeli occupying force is doing in Gaza? Absolutely. But at the time, the technological limitations and the SOP made it so that they were not as public about their war crimes that we understand as war crimes. Okay? Maybe they didn't do it to the same severity, to the same degree, but I do believe that the United States of America and its soldiers did identical war crimes to Israel. Okay? And many veterans who were there will confirm it for you. Okay? Many veterans, at least I've talked to, will confirm it. The difference, however, is that they didn't have a fucking phone. Okay? They didn't have a phone on them at all times and a TikTok account that they could immediately blast to. Now, obviously, we saw some aspects of this with Abu Ghraib, sorry. And it's not like they weren't prosecuted. There were some soldiers that were prosecuted, right? However, the reason why we see the endless sea of torment is because people are voluntarily uploading it, and the Israeli army seemingly doesn't care about it at all and is just like letting it happen. But in that way, war is not different. In that way, war is not different. War is a crime, as I like to say all the time. War is a crime in and of itself. But the way that war has changed is the way we see it, the way we analyze it, the way we can like get real-time updates of Israeli soldiers getting blasted inside of their Merkava tanks. Israeli soldiers getting blasted by sniper rifles from the militant insurgency groups. And of course, on the other side, we also see the Israeli occupying force and the metric ton of war crimes that they engage in. Okay? And it's like, it's being voluntarily uploaded. It's being voluntarily uploaded to TikTok. I have not watched this yet. No, the era of war crime influencers from Ugopnik, friend of the show, made this one day ago. I do want to watch it. Let's take a look. Is there TOS in this, chatters? Ugopnik also now a Twitch streamer as well. Ugopnik Twitch. Mike watched it the other day. Okay, I gotta pee. Hold on.
Planting bombs on this hospital in Gaza.
Old people like myself tend to say that everything was better back in the day. I'm more of the kids are all right crowd. Hell, I'm a kid myself to an extent. But one thing is undeniable. It was different. The internet was different. I used to think it was far more raw and uncensored, filled with shit that has probably left millions of kids with untreatable, unintentional PTSD. We had websites like Live Leaks, where you could find everything from cartel, ISIS, white supremacists, and other kinds of gore videos, as long as you knew how to press the 18+ button. Social media, influencers in particular, were finding their footing. It was mostly innocent little content, talking about hobbies or interests, educational content, or just the usual flexing of wealth or physical fitness and beauty. There were two internets, and while one would sometimes leak into the other, with random gang shootings popping up after you scroll past your grandma's kitty pictures over on Facebook, the truly messed up shit, war in particular, was on its own independent part of the web. Still very accessible, mind you, but limited to those who looked for it. Contrastingly, today, this sort of content has not only found its footing on mainstream platforms from TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, but it has birthed its own category of content creators, what we will call war crime influencers.
Not normal what's going on, but guys, we are gonna win. We are together. We're strong.
The worst thing I could see on my timeline back in the day was a Logan Paul video. Now I casually see shit like this.
All right, gentlemen. And so one thing that I want to talk about here is this. We often forget how violent of a culture America is, right? And I think that there is a real impact that the violence that we dish out overseas has on our collective consciousness. Okay? You can't get away with being a violent imperial force that destroys lives and livelihoods and then permanently justifies that as though it's an act of good that we are engaging in, and not have cultural ramifications here internally. That violence comes back and haunts us as well. Okay? I do believe that. And I think that the same attitude is now being plastered all over Israel. And the same thing is happening in real time, but in a much faster way, because of the fact that you can just basically telegraph every single thing that you're doing in war. You can basically film yourself doing all of the you're basically filming yourself doing all of these awful things. And that creates this normalizing effect of this kind of violence, because there's a bunch of people that also turn around and justify it. Anytime you mention this kind of thing, there are at least 10 people minimum that come in and defend it. Like this
I
video,
want you to repeat after me. Just how I do it. Ready?
the video of like Palestinians in the West Bank being apprehended in this way and being blasted with music, being a torturous condition, because you as the occupying power, you as the person who has detained another, have all of the responsibility to treat them like a human being. All of this would be torturous. This is conditions that are torturous. It's psychopathic to do it. It's additionally psychopathic to do it and blast it on the timeline. And yet when you show them this and you try to describe it, many people will say, those guys are terrorists, dog. And also, what's torturous about listening to music? Like, doing that sort of thing and like defending that sort of thing breaks you. Okay? If you see this and you immediately rush to defend it, you have now lost a part of your humanity. Okay? The goal here is to humiliate the person that you have apprehended. Even if they were literal terrorists, even if they were definitely terrorists, which these guys most likely are not, statistically speaking, because these are West Bank guys that the Israeli occupying force is apprehending. Okay? And those guys are just unlawfully detained permanently sometimes. Okay? But even if they were terrorists, doing this to a terrorist is still torturous, and it takes, and defending these actions and trying to normalize these actions takes a piece of your soul. You've become less of a human when you do that. Okay? Coates, the corrupting impact of violence on the soul. Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this quite a bit. I talk about this all the time with respect to American culture, but I think it's important to understand here, right, that it is very much existing in Israel as well. And I don't think people recognize that. Like, when you become desensitized to this kind of violence, okay, you've become less human. Okay? You become way closer to the terrorist that you think all of these enemies, supposed enemies of yours are. You become the actual terrorist in that situation.
All right, gentlemen. I want you to repeat after me. Just how I do it. Ready? Your turn.
You see, the leak in Live Leak kind of tells you that most of these videos were uploaded by a third party after they uncovered it somewhere in the depths of the web or in IRL. Cartel bosses wanted fear, sure, but not TikTok followers. ISIS wanted respect and panic, but not to pop off their online brand. Today, we have people who, using their own name and often face, proudly post their heinous acts of war, often criminal, as a means to normalize what they do, get clout or fangirly adoration. Nowhere has this been more prevalent than in the IDF.
Why do you think COD and other hyper-violent games are mainstream? They don't cause this, but they're certainly reflective of it. No. I think we have a phenomenal capability of like making a distinction between a video game and a movie and in real-life violence. The major problem here is that this is real-life violence. Okay? That's what makes it actually fucking gross. There's a difference between dehumanizing your opponent with the sole reasons, the sole goal of like doing genocide upon them, versus like consuming art of some variety. Whether we recognize it or not, we make that distinction. Right? That's why you can so easily do things in Grand Theft Auto that you would never in a million years do in the real world. Because you don't even think about it as like being anything but a video game. And by the way, there is empirical evidence to suggest this, for the record. I know that the chatter wasn't saying video game violence causes IRL violence, by the way. I get that. He's saying that it is reflective of like the kind of content that we want to consume, but violent content has always existed. I don't think that that is like, I think violence is an inherent part of humanity. It happens all the time. And it has existed in freaking cave paintings, you know? So it's always going to exist in our art. I don't think it's like reflective of anything beyond the fact that it is genuinely just a part of our existence, right? So yeah. But I feel like the media always glorifies the type of violence, which makes it an easier pill to swallow when it happens IRL. Well, the point I'm trying to make is that this is real violence. This is real propaganda. This is real dehumanization. That's when it's different. There's a difference between watching a snuff film and watching a movie, guys. The difference is that's a real thing that happened to a real person. That's why it's supposed to be traumatizing, okay? That is the distinction I believe Ugopnik is trying to make here as well. For those of you who don't understand, live leak is a leak because it's not meant to be out there, okay? You're balding.
Global condemnation by almost all mainstream internationally accredited civil rights organizations of the so-called conflict in Gaza, which has cost the life of over 20,000 Palestinians, have been unilateral, yet nobody acts. The call for ceasefire comes from billions of people from all over the globe, and yet nobody acts. 80% of all world governments have formally called for a ceasefire, and yet nobody acts. And now, even after all of that injustice, we are forced to watch the perpetrators gloat about their actions daily on our timelines as an online army of absolute freaks proceeds to post themselves, taking immense pleasure in the suffering they're inflicting, all while no platform dares to touch or remove them.
לכל מי ששאל למה אין לימודים בעזה, אופס, נפל לנו טיל עליכם, איזה בסיו, חבל.
How did we get here?
It's kind of interesting to see, like, you know how sometimes I get mad at liberals, especially rad libs, that will take on a lie being told about liberals in general by conservatives, like, oh, they're such diehard woke scolds who have no joy in their lives and they hate joy and they want to rob the world of its joy. And then some liberals will turn around and behave exactly like that meme, where they'll be like, no, I do want to fucking rob the joy of the world, right? And I get so mad when I see that. The IDF is doing that permanently, okay? People will say the IDF is violent. The IDF is behaving in a way that is like impossible to deal with. It's just a sequence of war crimes, one after the other. They're engaging in ethnic cleansing. And then these guys will go, no, we are. Like, that guy just basically admitted that, yes, we lie about the Palestinians. And yes, we also then kill the Palestinians. And yes, we killed their civil society. For funsies. It's vice signaling.
That particular army from that particular apartheid state has been always known for its love of posting.
And shitty ass techno music too. It's just like such a meme.
Last Friday night, yeah, we mixed our credit cards. I got kicked out of the bar, so we hit the boulevard.
And while it was almost slightly distasteful, as these videos would go up in between random acts of ethnic-based violence,
it is kind of funny, like, God, Israelis love, like the IDF especially, they love, one, taking like obviously doing ethnic cleansing here. The IDF loves doing ethnic cleansing while simultaneously basically stealing everything from the people that they're ethnically cleansing, like the music, the culture, the art, the food, while also simultaneously wiping it out and then putting a fucking shitty ass dance over it. It is like watching white supremacy, not saying that Israel is white, obviously, but it is like almost perfectly analogous to what like white people have done to black people. Right? In the United States of America, in England, like, but especially in the United States of America, because the United States of America is a settler colony. So it's like almost perfectly analogous. And it is this idea of like wiping out black people and having black people like redefine cultural norms for themselves in the aftermath of chattel slavery. Okay. And then just like taking all of these like cultural norms. Katy Perry is Palestinian. Yeah, I'm talking about Katy Perry. Thank you for understanding the point that I'm making. I know the song was a Katy Perry song with an artistic rendition of Katy Perry. That is like, it's almost a perfect study. It's almost a perfect study of like watching how supremacist cultures that are engaging in acts of like wanton violence upon an indigenous population end up stealing the cultural norms while also erasing it and then like making a shittier version of that culture that has been around for thousands of years at this point. It is almost it like the funnier versions of this, when all is said and done, is can be immediately seen in the likes of like Miley Cyrus twerking or Ben Shapiro rapping and claiming that he's now a rapper, or that he is like, he can jokingly be like, I hate black people. Well, very seriously be like, I hate black people, but then also be like, I'm rapping and I'm rapping better than black people can rap. See, this is your medium. It sucks. I can dominate it myself while not even trying that hard. That in and of itself obviously is like a way more I guess way more diluted version of the thing that I'm mentioning. Okay. But you see it happen with black culture being commoditized, stolen from black people, and the things that many have attacked black people for, they turn around and make it fashionable when white people do it. Okay? And Israel is basically doing that in real time right now. It's almost like I don't know. It's almost like a cultural study that you can watch in real time and experience in real time, happening and unfolding right in front of our eyes. Exactly what this country did as a settler colony originally to the indigenous population and also the black population as well, what we've done to black people in general and continue to do to black people now. So yeah, interesting stuff.
Violence being committed on the streets. It was mostly just that, dancing. I mean, yeah, the IDF has always been very good at pitching their army to Westerners as one being of quote-unquote higher caliber than those of their neighbors. Look at us, we're so silly and chill. We have vegan food that we serve because we care about animals and ethics. We have all these beautiful people in uniform. It almost looks like we're edgy New York content creators, not a brutal occupying army. Speaking of someone who's not a brutal occupying army, just a guy who posts on the internet, are we really going to let these people have more subscribers than me?
Damn, dude. That's a way weaker segue than my top of the hour ad break debates, okay? Because at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break, and if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe. Subscribe to Ugopnik as well, obviously, on YouTube. He's a great content creator. He also streams on Twitch now, Ugopnik Twitch. But also subscribe to me for $5 or for free at the top of the hour if you don't want to see the 3-minute ad break. That's right. At the top of the hour, there is a 3-minute ad break. You can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky. Here's the 3-minute ad break now.
That can't be right, so go on, press the subscribe button right now and contribute to less war crime endorsing videos on this big little platform of ours. Anyways, I can't believe I'll say this, but I miss those little cringy dance videos, because what we have now is far more mask off than any journalist could dig up. Now, people have been recording themselves doing vile shit in conflict zones since we invented the camera. This is nothing new. But the total sheer level of shamelessness to put it on platforms accessible by billions is something I hadn't seen, well, ever. I can only guess where this audacity to post shit like this comes from.
מה, לא עונים? נושא שוב. מוזר, נראה לי אין אף אחד בבית.
What I suspect motivates such open flaunting of pure spite and hate through physical acts, mind you, much worse than just verbal, is the internalized notion this whole army has, and even the state, that they're completely and...
Oh, by the way, while we were talking about this, the U.S. attacks have officially begun. U.S. official confirms strikes occurring in Iraq and Syria. 8 targets is just first of many courses so far.
Utterly untouchable. And can you blame them? Look at what's been going on for 3 months now, and except for a few boys with choppers over in Yemen and a few corporate boycotts, there has been no, absolutely zero consequences to speak of. When you think you're untouchable, then you have no reason to believe in consequences. That, or you are so certain that you'll be the victor who writes the history, that you see this as not much more than just gathering good old trophies.
So fucking gross, dude. So unimaginably gross. But also, of course, like the fact that there's also techno, like shitty ass techno blasting as well, makes this so uniquely Israel. You can't have it be an Israeli staple without shitty fucking EDM, dude. Jesus Christ.
It's gotten so bad that the military probably has concerted efforts to stop it, and the fact it can't, while being quite literally the kings of military PR, tells you just how surface level the shit we're seeing really is, since that's the only stuff that actually gets through. I mean, we're talking about a country which has a whole department of internet scavengers that both post, manipulate, and push rhetorics online, as well as a country with defined organs to getting people thrown out of their jobs, sometimes rightfully for expressing anti-Semitic lunacy, but other times simply due to their...
I wonder how many Hasbro motherfuckers have come in here and like try to duke it out over and over again, or what kind of impact that like Hasbro operations has on like the minds of Redditors in general, who are obviously very susceptible to like looking at a situation and being like, well, a lot of people also feel that this is the correct thing, so I guess maybe I also believe it. You know what I mean? Something to consider.
Their support of Palestinian rights. But enough about the army. What about the internet's role in this whole thing? The reason I mentioned that I no longer believe that the internet used to be more raw and uncensored in the past is because we don't even notice when something is raw and uncensored nowadays. People aren't getting long-term scarring from violent footage anymore because it's absolutely everywhere. In the last 3 months alone, without even looking for it, I've seen countless death and destruction, and likely so have you. This, as messed up as it sounds, is the good side of this whole story. Thanks to the internet, we're able to get insight far quicker into what's happening on the ground in some of the most hellish war zones on Earth. But while we have access to it, this very same constant exposure makes us less receptive of it. No shock value, no anger. That old saying, one dead man is a tragedy, 1,000 is a statistic, can very easily be applied to how we browse the web. You get shocked once or twice over the same thing, and then it just turns into a sort of torture porn experience for you. While those very same people, in their flesh and blood, never stopped going through the horrors on the ground. The question I won't be answering because there's not enough data to actually answer it keeps lingering in my head. Are we more empathetic of the horrors of the system, this world, the monsters in it, because we can see them through our screens, or are we more distant than ever? The millions of people on the streets calling for an end to this barbarity give me optimism, but it really is too early to tell. If it's that desensitized for us, what do you think it's like for the so-called soldiers on the...
I feel like ever since the Ukraine war and videos of drone footage blowing up Russian soldiers has gotten way worse. The first time I think we got to like get real-time combat footage that we cared about collectively in the Western world was Russia-Ukraine, I think. Obviously, it existed in Syria. It existed with like ISIS doing this kind of thing. But before it was like still, in my opinion, relegated to like the darker corners of the internet of people who were like kind of pervy about that sort of stuff, right? Like the way that this turned into like mass, readily consumable content for like available content for readily consumable for mass consumption is like turning away from like being live leak shit to directly something that like the average normie has encountered online, whether it be on TikTok or whether it be on Reddit, was I think Russia, Ukraine. It has existed, of course, because like I said, war has been the same. All war is a crime. But the way we see and the way we perceive war has changed in dramatic ways. It used to just be something that you didn't accidentally stumble upon, but like you had to search for it and see these like crazy videos. Even with Syria, it was still like 4chan. But now, because of the 4chanification of Reddit and Twitter and even TikTok in some ways, you see it everywhere. Normies are watching it. Normies are consuming it. And I think the turning point was Ukraine. This has been a slow burn since Vietnam. It cranked to 11 recently, but this desensitization is not new. No, my point is, I don't know if I'm making my point clear here, because clearly there are still people who are confused. All of this stuff has always, war crimes have always happened. Some of it even filmed, okay? But the limitations of technology and the fact that like social media was not readily available, obviously, or did not exist before the internet, and before social media platforms would like allow this sort of thing, this was not something you could easily find. Okay? This was not something you could easily find. And it certainly, as a consequence of technology and social media, became more readily available, but it still was not like accessible to mass consumption until, I would say, Reddit, the 4chanification of like social media sites, especially Reddit with Ukraine, okay? And this becoming something that you don't just like see through a filter in mainstream media like CNN, okay? But something that you could literally stumble upon even if you weren't looking for it.
the ground committing these same acts. Normalized to the point of posting means it's the same to them like posting a new watch, a night into town, or a wedding photo. Social media is our compass to what is seen as standard, as normal, so to say. If you're posting it for the whole world to see, then you must not feel ashamed of it. Hell, you might even feel proud of it, and for you not to feel shame towards something, you must find it to be normal. Well, tell me, how can someone who posts this be normal?
Like, in my opinion, one of the versions of this that like normalizes war and war crimes in general is like the age-old thing where you go and like you sign an artillery shell or you sign a missile with your name. Many people have done this. I think it's like one of the grossest things you can do, right? It's one of the grossest things you can do. You're basically saying like this missile that is going to literally kill children, okay? I'm co-signing it. I think it's awesome. I personally find that to be genuinely awful, okay? But this is a continuation of that.
It's almost as if the general need to post is unironically, and sorry, but this is genuinely funny. It's almost as if the general need to post is more important to some people than staying out of jail. It's not the internet's fault. It's not some blood or culture thing either. It's a state deepening into fascistic genocidal fervor, which leads to a change in what is defined as normal that turns its perceived enemy into a dehumanized punching bag.
Yeah, this is their Arab face, by the way. This is like ironic because they're fucking Arabs. They're just Arab Jews. How do you literally lose sight of what you're doing? Like, how do you unironically engage in this level of like racism when you yourself are literally Arab? Okay? They're not, they're European colonizers. Man, shut up. That's not fucking true. Not everything has to be understood from the incredibly American framework of like white guy from Europe is bad versus against the marginalized indigenous population of like non-whites. No. They are white. The fuck are you on? Oh my God. Oh my Lord. Oh my fucking God. Israel has a ginormous population of Arab Jews. They are simply classified as Jews and classified differently than Muslim and Christian Arabs in the country. That does not change the reality that they are literally still fucking Arab. That's why if nobody was wearing their gear, okay, it would be virtually impossible to tell the Arab citizens, okay, the Arab Jews versus the Palestinian Arabs apart. No, it's not 20% of Arab Jews. 20% of Arab Jews, as far as I remember. No, it's more than that. I think it's a majority now. People think like all the Jews are Ashkenazi or something. Like the white Jews, like the Polish, Ukrainian, like those guys are not like they don't comprise the majority of Jews in Israel. Okay, I mean I don't know if it's the Arab Jews that are the Mizrahi Jews that are 20% is just Palestinian citizens of Israel. So it's the Muslim and Christian Arabs. Many of the Mizrahi Jews that are from Iraq and shit, literally just Arabs, with the term Arab is practically synonymous with Palestinian and Israel. That's what I mean. Itamar Ben-Gvir is Iraqi and Kurdish, okay? It's just odd to see it's odd to see like this level of distinction between like two people that are not distinct from one another at all other than religion. Okay? I guess it's like the Balkans. Kind of like that. You know what I mean? But I don't know enough about the dehumanization practices that like Serbs engaged in, or the dehumanization practices that even the Ottoman Empire or Turks engaged in against like Armenians. Okay. So I don't know. I don't know how they like made their minds up that these people were like somehow different. Okay. But stop looking at this from the framework of like white versus non-white, because that's not the case. You're orientalizing distinct ethnicities, in my opinion. Also, maybe our conceptions of white vary. Wait, what? What are you talking about? No, you're the one who's doing that. If you say that Israel is just like white and it's made up of white people, you are the one who is doing that. I'm right. You're wrong in this circumstance. Mizrahi Jews are created as a distinction that the Israeli state has made because it's a Jewish supremacist ethno state. And it is a distinction that the Jewish supremacist ethno state that wants to maintain being a Jewish supremacist ethno state that has found a different classification for non-Jews, claiming that Jews who are of Arab descent that come from Arab countries that are just Arab. They consume Arab food. They are like their families have lived in the MENA region for generations, not in Israel directly, but in many instances, other parts of MENA that have distinct cultural touch points that they brought back, like cultural practices they brought back into Israel. Like all of that gets put under the banner of being Mizrahi Jew, even though you are still fucking Arab.
Just nowadays, it also posts about it. Over 30 years ago now, many people calling themselves patriots from every corner of the little peninsula that birthed and bred me, the Balkans, did unspeakable things in the name of this or that cause. Hatred, revenge, or straight-up sociopathy unlocked by the total moral free-for-all which is war. Many of these same men recorded home videos of their deeds, thinking they're untouchable, thinking they'll be victors. And while many remain free to this day, a lot of them are rotting in jail or in the ground, because their vanity reached such heights that they recorded their ungodly actions. Receipts, ladies, gentlemen, and tovarishi, eventually fall out of our pockets, and the IDF has a lot of receipts.
Yeah.
As of the making of this video, in a case against Israel by South Africa in the International Court of Justice, these very same videos have played a large role in depicting this terrifying bloodlust exhibited by those very same war crime influencers. At the end of the day, who cares about our discomfort while watching any of this stuff? Who cares about consumerist social media?
Haven't found one source that suggests more than 25% of Israelis are Arab. Yes, dude, because you are literally... Yeah, dude, you're saying Sephardic aren't Arabs. The majority are Ashkenazi. Persian Jews aren't Arab, buddy. It's 20%, not even close to a majority. It's not a majority, it's the plurality. My literal Shaisa has more accurate takes. What is happening, dude? Can an Israeli guy just not be so fucking phenomenally racist? What's happening? What do you mean, uh-oh? You literally keep Googling the same thing over and over again, okay? And not recognizing that that distinction that you're bringing up is literally, uh-oh, I'm Irish and black. Wait, what? You lived in Israel for 4 years, but it's mostly white. I've lived there for 4 years. I'm Irish and black. First of all, I don't give a fuck what your background is. Your brain is permanently and irreparably broken, it seems. Okay? Yes, sir. Called the Foreign Service. Oh, God, you're such a gross piece of shit. Either you're just lying or I don't know what the fuck is wrong with your brain. Okay? You called me an Israeli, bro. Yeah, you were talking about like living there for 4 years. So, yes, that was my suspicion. They didn't realize that you were such a fucking dick rider that you went and joined the Foreign Service. You triggered the crazies? Yeah, 2-day followers, dude. Holy moly. Oh, my God. Suck me from the back. I don't think your dick can reach that far. Let's be for fucking real. Obviously, you're doing a lot of baby dick activities here, so
Culture fuel.
I don't know why you're literally LARPing in here as though you understand a singular thing about Israel. Israel's demographics, okay? I believe it's the plurality. I don't know if I've gotten the numbers correctly, but you keep mentioning only 25% of the Israeli population is Arab. That is because you're using the state's designation. Okay, the state's designation considers that that Arabs LARPing. I spent 18 years in the Middle East. Yeah, the difference is you spent 18 years in the Middle East as a fucking colonizing little piece of shit. I spent 18 years in the Middle East living there. Okay, as a Turkish person. That's the difference between you and I, you dumb fuck. Imagine being Irish and black, as you claim. Okay, two different backgrounds, very distinct backgrounds that have genuinely been victims of colonial violence only to fucking perpetrate it so aggressively. I don't give a fuck what your background is. I don't care where your masters are from. You're just a dumb fuck in this situation. A dumb fuck that misunderstands everything that's going on, okay? In a country that you have lived in, apparently. Anyway. You keep pointing to this. 21. Around 2 million people are Israeli citizens classified as Arab, some identifying as Palestinian, including Druze and Circassians, all other Muslims, Christian Arabs, Armenians. Okay? There's two distinctions in the Israeli demographics. There's Arab and there's Jew. Okay? This is, however, incorrect. It is not the full picture. Okay? The full picture is what I'm trying to tell you, what I'm trying to describe to you, is that there are Arab Jews in Israel. Okay? They are still considered Jews under the state demographics. Okay? Come on, where's the fucking percentage? We've looked at this before. I can't even find it. Someone like Itamar Ben-Gvir, while being an Arab Jew, is considered Jewish and not a part of the Arab population. The Arab population, according to the Israeli demographics, because Israel is a racist ethno-state, okay, that differentiates between Arab Jews and non-Jewish Arabs, okay? There it is. As of 2005, 61% of Israeli Jews were of full or partial Mizrahi ancestry. Okay? There you go. When you comprise it, if you look at MENA, if you look at like the MENA region in general, Sephardim, which is from Morocco and Spain, and Mizrahi, which are Middle Eastern Jews, they make up, I believe, 48% of the entire population, but they make up 61% of the Israeli Jewish population. Okay? This is akin to saying Trevor Noah isn't black but colored because that's how the South African state defines race. It literally comes down to Israel not defining Jews from Arab countries as Arab. Exactly. It is such an odd thing to come in here and argue about and demonstrate your lack of knowledge on this. Okay? It's also weird to argue on this point from incredibly racist talking points that the incredibly racist apartheid state has designed. Okay? No, this is just like the diverse religious background amongst Judaism and shit. That's not what I'm talking about. I still disagree with Hasan that this isn't a religious war. Of course it's not a religious war. Religion is a tool, chatter. Not. When was I racist? I made a mistake on what? I made a mistake on percentages. Still work? No. Your issue wasn't that you simply made a mistake on percentages. You made a mistake on percentages that literally that was incredibly fucking annoying. You made it seem you personally did not understand what the designation I was making. Okay, you used the apartheid state's very own demographic numbers in a way that demonstrated your lack of knowledge on the situation, while I was directly actually talking about how Israel makes these demographic distinctions in an incredibly racist way that feeds back into the Jewish supremacist ethno-state values that they want to create. Okay? Considering that you have Israel in your fucking username, it leads me to believe that you are either trolling or, coming in pretending like you're a big authority on this and being wrong and still not humbled is so idiotic. I know, it's very, very, very frustrating. I have to deal with the kind of thing all the time. Okay? Stop being a fucking dumb fuck. Humble yourself a little bit and, understand that maybe there are depths to maybe you can be out of your element a little bit. Maybe you don't know the full picture. There's a reason why you're watching me on the other side of the computer and I'm not watching you talk about this issue. It's because I might know a little bit more than you on this matter, even if you yourself lived there for 4 years. Okay? You just got debated into spending 5 minutes on race science by an actual Hosber agent, Lamau. It doesn't matter. This was quite informative for many, I think, who also don't understand this distinction. This is an important distinction to make. So I will always still use the opportunity to educate chatters. Okay? Yeah, many people don't know this. Many people think like, oh, well, 25% or 20% of the Israeli population is Arab. What are you talking about? Not realizing that a gigantic chunk of the Israeli population across the board are Arab Jews that are not defined as Arab Jews, but simply as Jews, Mizrahi Jews or Sephardic Jews. And the reason for that designation is because it is an apartheid regime. Okay? So no, I will use chatters as a jump off point. Okay? I will do it over and over again. That's kind of the whole point.
This or whatever. I say, if evil wants to unmask itself, let it, so the whole world can see.
You ever have insomnia?
Anyway. How did the American war criminals from the post 9/11 era actually get prosecuted? It seems impossible that